Well, I got another quick install to do on this Lightning. Basically, the transmission started slipping on the 1-2 shift, so I sent that out to be built. So while it's gone, I'm kind of doing some other things while I have the truck on the lift right now. So anyway, here is Lightning it like converts to a Super Duty transmission cooler. So currently on a stock Lightning, the transmission fluid flows through both an auxiliary cooler, a tiny little thing, probably about that big or so, and it has 2 ports right on the bottom. It's about so big. And then it also flows through an internal passage of the radiator. Obviously doesn't mix with the coolant, but it runs through there as well. So anyway, that's a 2-stage cooling deal. Anyway, when you trash a transmission, obviously it's very likely that some metal debris would get run through those coolers. And so I'm going to replace the coolers. I'm going to leave the ones that I have in there, and I'm going to make them basically abandoned. I'll take the small cooler out, but the radiator obviously will just have the lines disconnected. And then I'm going to use this cooler as a replacement, and obviously it's larger. So that should do quite a bit better job. So anyway, I bought this kit from BG Racing. And so it came recommended to me by a guy that I value his opinion very highly, especially on transmission things. And so anyway, it has a chunk of hose right there. And I don't know what size fittings these are, but I don't know if it's like a -4 or what it is exactly, but they're not too big. Maybe -6, I'm not even sure. But anyway, basically this is for one line, and this guy is for the other line. And the only difference is this angled fitting, and we'll go through that later, but then a couple screws to mount the cooler up. But anyway, here's the instructions. So it comes with some nice instructions there. And so basically that's what we're going for. So you actually do use a little piece of, or a section of, the original lines, which I actually took those out because I was kind of thinking this was going to be like a full line kit, but it's not a full line kit. It's just like a conversion kit. So I actually have to go get those lines, part of the metal lines, and then I'll flush those, kind of rinse those out, make sure there's nothing in those that I don't want to catch again in my transmission, and then I'll go put it up. The one thing I did prior to this video is I took the lower valance off. And so there's lots of videos about how to do that. But basically, I was on the lift, but you could do this on the ground. But basically, you come up in here and you reach your hand in here and get inside here. And then on the back, like right here, where those 2 holes are, there's actually like a stud that sticks through this bracket. And there's 2 there and 2 there. And that actually sticks through, and there's a big pair of nuts on the back of there. And anyway, so there are those guys. So you just knock those off really quick. Same over here. And then this little shrouding piece, you have to pull all those little push deals off. And then also I did have to disconnect the heat exchanger, and this is an LFP heat exchanger, but I drained it, disconnected it. That's pretty basic stuff, nothing serious. So anyway, that's and then disconnect your fog lights. So I'm trying to think. So it was those bolts, the pair, the heat exchanger, the shroud, and the lights, and I think that was ready to go. So anyway, not a hard process. So we'll get to starting on this, and probably gonna go put those factory lines back in, so at least I'm kind of back to square one. Alright, so I'm back underneath here. You can see kind of the harness is just kind of hanging here where the transmission would normally be. And so this line and the other line there are the pair of cooler lines that would have existed prior. So I just kind of slid those through there right where they belong. They kind of both make a jog right here together, and then both come out on the other side over here. So I'm just going to kind of let those be where they are. That's kind of going to be probably the last step that I do here. But for right now, what I want to do is get the grill off of this truck, because the cooler basically goes up behind there. So the current, or the cooler from before, would actually sit right in here. It sits and it has 2 lines that come down. And so those actually feed down and into a pair of these lines. There's actually a third little short stubby line that I didn't even bother bringing inside because we're not going to use it. So I think I have the cooler right here. So there's the cooler. You can see it's a pretty small little guy. So that's where it sits, and this bracket holds it up there. So anyway, it obviously probably has metal in it, so I'm not going to use that for really anything other than complete garbage. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do now. I'll probably take the truck down a little bit and see what we can do about that grill without hopefully breaking anything. Alright, so I took the grill off now, and there's still basically the header panel going across the front of the truck that, is responsible for aligning the headlights, and I don't really want to screw that up or misplace that or anything like that. So what I'm going to try to do is take these little arms off of the cooler and see if I can snake it in there. So I'm going to do that now. Alright, so I got this blown apart. So next I'll see if I can weasel that thing in there. Alright, well I took the ears off of this guy, so we'll see if I can weasel it in here. Helps if you put it in the right way. Something like that. Just gonna set it down and then I'm gonna go put those ears on it real quick. Alright, so I'm going to lift this thing up here. There's this rubber, I don't know, shroud basically, that kind of guides air into the radiator. That's kind of getting in the way for these arms right here. So I'm going to have to nip that and like actually sit it in there, but for right now, I probably should have did this just before I put those arms on. But I'm going to set this up here, kind of fight it a little bit here, and using the holes that are there, I'm going to center this thing up so it's sitting in the middle. So I left a little mark there. I'm just going to pre-drill the holes because I don't want to have to fight them with that cooler in my hand. Okay, so now I'm going to lift the cooler up there and attach it with the screws. So I'm purposely leaving these loose because I want a little bit of negotiation here at the end, especially if I'm going to be nicking this rubber part. So I'm just going to take a utility knife probably and just kind of make a nice little cut there. Same over on this side so that I can bring those two arms, they're both drooping like this, I'm going to bring them up so they're nice and straight and flush, and then get them attached. Okay, I got my knife here quick. And I'm just going to do a quick little nick right here. Easy stuff. So that should sit in there straight like that. And same over here. Those are just barely long enough to actually stretch that distance, so I may end up actually, rather than drilling through the hole on the arm, I might actually just drill through the arm into the core support. So anyway, let's see how it goes. it's like right on the border of where that can work and not work there. Gonna kind of angle it in. Okay. And then same thing on this side. Nice. Now I'm going to tighten up those 4 bolts. Okay, now it's in there nice and solid. Start plumbing. Okay, so these are the first fittings that go on, that come in the kit. So it goes from this side, we go onto the cooler that I just put in, and this side right here goes to the AN style fitting, push style fitting. So I don't believe they need any type of sealant. I'm just going to put a little of this guy on there. Whoops, right there. This is like a E85 safe, diesel safe, thread sealant. So I'm just going to put just a dab on there. Nothing serious. Like I say, I don't think really this is necessary at all. I think it more is just so if I do have to take it apart, then I can get it apart. If these, I don't know what these are made out of or metals wise. So, like I say, just a little bit. And so I'm going to go thread those in now. Alright, so one of these, the angled fitting, that goes on to one side. The one that kind of has to cheat over, that'd be the driver's side, has to cheat over to the passenger side. And then another straight fitting goes on to the passenger side that basically just goes down and swoops back. So I've done these before, not with this type of a hydraulic style hose, but anyway, they say you could take some oil, but if you just freaking spit on it, I know that sounds kind of weird, but just lube it up really quick and then press it against the face of the bench. There you go, she's on there. So I'm gonna put one on each end of this hose, and then I'm gonna cut it later. So obviously this doesn't make sense the way I'm actually plumbing it right now, but it will eventually. So again, just tongue it up really quick. Start it. Don't drop it. And this angle one's going to be a little tougher because I can't really get a good square push on it. But you got to push it home. I'm going to have to put this one in a vise or something. Not a vise, but you push it home till that hose goes up inside this little collar here. So I'm going to finish this one off and grunt off screen. So I got this guy seated down there right. Just mashed it in there. And same with this guy. So now I'm going to go hook them up and basically saved you guys from listening to me breathe heavy. Not that I don't already, so. Anyway, get a knife to cut this with. Here it is. That guy started, and this guy. started, and I see where these lines are going, where the old transmission lines are going, so I'm just gonna kind of shoot these down here in a somewhat decent fashion, and then just cut right in the middle of that line. And that should give them equal amounts of leeway. Okay, so I got those cut, so one's going to tip back, the other's going to tip back, and we'll terminate those fittings. Bye with the trains. Okay, so what I did was I took the two transmission cooler lines and cut those off, and then put these two fittings on there like they're like a compression style fitting. They come with a kit. These are a slip-on hydraulic line fit kit, and so those I just have it zip tied up. See there, and it passes through and connects to the transmission there and there. So pretty basic deal, but now it's all hooked up, so it's a matter of filling the transmission and letting the pump pull all the air out of it. So anyway, pretty easy deal. I snuck it through the little hole in that sheathing part there, so it put all those little push style fasteners back. So looks good. So I don't really know where that transmission cooler video ended off, just because I got really busy and was really trying to get my truck back on the road. But basically cut those lines off, put the fittings on, tighten them up. I didn't even cut the flexible hose down, just because it never hurts to have a little extra on there anyway. It gives you a little wiggle when you're trying to maintenance it. And basically put all that little rubber shroud with all the little clips back and fill it up just like a normal transmission. So you know, previously when I ran this truck, the shroud or the fan clutch really would not really ever run, not really roar, unless it was really hot out and you're just taking off after being like sitting idling. Whereas now, I mean, it runs in like stop and go type traffic, and it really does make kind of a roar. So I'm sure it's kicking off some heat, which is good. That's what you want the transmission cooler to do, is kick off heat. And so anyway, I don't know, I think that's a worthwhile mod for anybody to do, and cheap and easy, and I really have no problems with it. So hope it helped you install it, and if you have any questions, hit me up. Thanks for watching.